why don't you go be a guest on other people's podcasts, but not just to have a good conversation or build your visibility or likes or get followers, but specifically to get leads, sales, and clients. And I go, Mark, I'm willing to try anything. Sure, let's do it. How do we do it? I have no freaking idea, but we will figure it out together.
Hi, I'm Zarina, and welcome to the Grownlearn Podcast. Beyond these conversations, I actively connect investors with high growth opportunities. Right now, I'm working on projects seeking strategic partners, like a $346 million real estate development, a revolutionary heating technology, and an AI-driven life insurance disruptor. If you're an investor, PE firm, or family office looking for scalable ventures, let's talk. Book a call at grownlearn.org to explore these opportunities. Welcome back to Grow and Learn, beautiful minds. Today, I am having a repeat guest, somebody who's going to bring up a lot of energy into your day today, and who's going to tell you how to make more business, no matter what kind of business you're in. I'm speaking to Nicky Billou. I believe you're based in New York, but I'm not quite sure. Welcome, Nicky.
Dorina, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. So good to get to speak to you after all this time. Thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. You haven't aged a day. So I know you also, apart from your business activities, you also train people in staying in shape. And
I don't do that anymore. I used to, but I train myself for
you
sure.
train yourself. Well, it's working.
Thank you.
Nicky, for the people that haven't watched your first show and our first show, and maybe lots of them haven't, who are you?
What a great question. I'm going to give you a bit of a different introduction than I did when I first came on your show. So I am somebody who's a humanist. I love my fellow man and woman. I think that God put us here on this earth first and foremost to love, to grow, to contribute to one another. I come from a family that believed in this and does this. I believe in freedom. I come from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. We escaped tyranny, and we are champions for freedom. And we really believe that freedom is what every man, every woman on this planet wants and deserves. And in particular, entrepreneurs, because without freedom, you can't create your entrepreneurial dreams and make them come alive. But I myself have been running businesses of my own for about 20 years. And about 3 years ago, you may remember there was this thing called the lockdowns and the scamdemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Canada, where I live, they were pretty harsh.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know, I remember I was in contact with people in Canada, and it was terrible there.
It was terrible. So I was at the time and am again now very much involved in-person live events for high-level coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs who really wanted to create a powerful personal brand for themselves, right? That was what it was all about as far as I was concerned. And then we couldn't meet in person anymore. Wasn't allowed. So $500,000 of my business walked out the door in a week. You know what I mean? I'm going, oh my God, I'm freaking out here. What am I going to do? This is 3 years ago, right? January, early February 2022. So I call my coach, a man named Mark Von Muser, and I go, Mark, I'm freaking out over here. What can we do here to turn this around? And he goes, Nicky, I got an idea. I go, okay, what is it? He said, why don't you go be a guest on other people's podcasts, but not just to have a good conversation or build your visibility or likes or get followers, but specifically to get leads, sales, and clients. And I go, Mark, I'm willing to try anything. Sure, let's do it. How do we do it? Zarina, he gave me the greatest coaching anyone's ever given anybody. It was so good. I remember it verbatim to this day. And I'm gonna say it to you exactly as he said it to me. And I quote directly from Mark, I have no freaking idea, but we will figure it out together. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I started to utilize a platform called Podmatch, which of course you and I are very well aware of because that's how we met originally. And because of Podmatch, I was able to start getting on shows quite quickly and easily. But I wasn't getting any leads, I wasn't getting any sales, I wasn't getting any clients. But what I did do, because Mark is former US military, is we did something called an after action debrief, which means after every show, we would sit down and review what we did, what went well, what didn't go well, and he would make tweaks and adjustments. So sometimes we went on long shows, sometimes we went on short shows. Sometimes we had direct conversations with people, sometimes we had indirect conversations with people. I went on 100 shows with no leads, no sales, no clients. But after every show, I got better, I got smarter. By show 101, it all clicked. And I got my first lead, my first sale, my first client. And I've been doing this since May of 2022. So a little more than 2.5 years. I've been on over 700 podcasts as a guest. Mm-hmm. I've done this part-time, because I do a lot of other things, right? 3, maybe 5 hours a week. But here's the beauty part, Serena. I've generated $500,000 in sales part-time in 2.5 years. Now, people go, well, is this all you did to make money? I go, no. I speak on stages. I have a strategy for messaging out to my warm market. It's a very powerful strategy, and I get referrals. So I've made probably triple that money in the last 2.5 years, right? But the truth of the matter is, podcast guesting opened the door to being able to not spend money. Because think about this. Most people that have been trying to get leads, they spend money on ads. And you and I were talking about this before the show, Serena, right? Like 5 years ago, it was great. You'd spend money on ads. $1 would get you $20 back. Today, you spend $20 on ads, you get maybe $5 back. It's not sustainable, right? Podcast guesting, you spend nothing. I have not paid to be on your show, right? Both of us are on Podmatch. That's what, $30, $40, $50 a month that we spend. So I've spent $600 a year, $500 a year, something like that, to make $500,000. That is an incredible return. That's 1,000-fold return. So if you're in business and you're like thinking to yourself, okay, what can I do to get leads? I need leads, I need clients, I need sales. Well, one of the things you got to do is you got to learn about podcast guesting, because you can do it virtually for free, right? Very low money. And it's something that very few people understand how to do. Most people go on shows just to have a conversation. There are some people who go on shows and they realize this is a brilliant opportunity to create lead sales and clients. That's what it was like for me. And I wrote a book about it, right? I told you it's called Get Booked and Get Paid, How to Generate 6 Figures Plus a Year Through Podcast Guesting. And this book lays out the whole roadmap of what to do, how to do it, how to get on shows using something like Podmatch, because I think Podmatch is good. Podmatch is very powerful, very interesting. And doing this will completely change someone's life. Imagine if you were able to add $100,000 to your business in the next 6 months, extra over and above what you wanted to do. Man, you'd be the happiest person around, right?
Quick break. If you're looking for high growth opportunities or expert strategy support, let's talk. I'm involved in projects like a next-gen biofertilizer transforming agriculture, an aerial mapping drone that's 10 times faster than traditional tech, and AI-driven innovations disrupting industries. As a fractional chief strategy officer, I help businesses execute strategies and bring in top experts to get things done. Let's discuss your needs. Book a call at grownlearn.org. All right. So when you go on podcasts, who are your leads that you're targeting? Is it the people who are the listeners? Do you get more leads from actual YouTube videos, not the YouTube videos of the podcast? Or what is your relationship that you talked about relationship building before we started this conversation?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When I go on a show, I have what I call a triple intention. So my first intention is I want to make the audience, feel inspired, because the audience is people like you and me. They're seekers. They want to learn. They want to grow. And the last 5 years have been tough on people. You would agree with me, right, Zarina? It's not been easy times in the world. So they're looking for inspiring voices. God give me the ability to speak powerfully, speak with a lot of energy. So boom, that's my first intention. My second intention is I want you to be happy that you brought me on as the host, because you're spending time, energy, money to put this show together. It's a big risk, right? You bring on the wrong person, it can destroy all the goodwill you've built with people. So I want to make sure at the end of the show, you go, I love this guy. I want him back. He's the best guest I ever had. That's what I'm looking for. But this is the important part. The host is a fellow seeker, is a fellow business person. I'm old school. Okay. I'm over 50. I'm actually 57, right? And I'm from before this age where you texted everybody and social media to everybody. And I still think that what I believe is how, relationships and business get done. I do business with people that I know, that I like, that I trust. I'm not talking about buying like a $20 item. I'm talking about buying a significant purchase. You know what I mean? $5,000, $10,000, $100,000. I want to do business with someone I know, I like, and I trust. So the opportunity for me to come on the show is to build a strong know, like, and trust relationship with you, the host. And if you go on someone else's show, that's the opportunity for you. If you just went on the show to say, okay, I want to put my message out there, let's be honest, there's not a lot of shows that are big enough that that's really a good strategy. Most shows are not that big. Most shows have 100 listeners, 1,000 listeners, 5,000 listeners, and those are good numbers. But honestly, people are not going to be reaching out to you. If you go on Joe Rogan and you go, hey, I do this, Joe Rogan has 10 million listeners. So you know what? You're probably going to get a few people who are going to reach out to you. But how many people get to go on Joe Rogan? Most people don't get to go on Joe Rogan. Most people get to go on other shows. And those shows are equally wonderful. To me, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if the show host has 10 listeners or 10,000 listeners. My main objective is I want to build a strong connection with that host. Because if I build a strong connection with you, we get to know each other. Maybe I become your client. Maybe you have something I need. Maybe you become my client. Maybe I have something you need. Maybe there's an opportunity for collaboration. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to say, I loved you on my show. I'm going to introduce you to this other host. Or I could go, you're really great. I have 5 more guests for you. Would you like some of these guests? This is what becomes possible out of the relationship. So my number one objective when I come on the show, after inspiring the audience, after making sure you're happy, is making sure that I built a good, strong connection and relationship with you, the host, because that is what opens all doors.
Sounds good. And you mentioned that it took you about a year, about 100 shows to figure out the exact strategy. Can you share some of the things that came up to you in this time, in this period?
Well, number one is when I realized that it wasn't about going to the audience so much as making sure that it was about making sure that the host and I had a strong relationship. That was a game changer, right? Because I went from, is this show going to have people that I need that are going to respond to the message, going, if that happens, that's nice. I'm really interested in making sure I build a relationship with the host. That was a complete, total game changer. So everyone's got to understand that. Secondly, you can't just come on a show and say, I'm just going to say whatever. You know what? We're going to have a conversation. No, you're going to have a conversation 100%, but you need to have a plan. You need to have thought through how you're going to speak on this episode. So you're asking me questions, right? And I'm answering your questions, but I'm making sure that I make the key points I want to make. So the first point that I wanted to make when I got on the show is I got to tell you the story of why I got into podcast guesting. That's a personal story. It's touching. A lot of people will listen and go, yeah, during the pandemic and the lockdowns, my business went crazy too. You know, maybe that was even you. Maybe your business went down a little bit. That's a little bit of a connection point that gets created between me and some of the listeners and you, the host. Second thing that's super important is that I have some stories of people that I tell. Now, I haven't told any stories other than my own yet, but I have a couple of stories and I want to share them with you as part of the process.
I'd love to hear them. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you a great story. So a lot of people go, okay, Nicky, listen, you go on shows as a guest. That's all good for you because, you know, you got big energy, you're charismatic. I'm not like that. I'm like an introvert. How's that going to work for me? I'm an introvert, man. I don't have big energy. I'm going, okay, let me tell you a story of somebody just like you. So I had a fellow who became a client of mine. This is before I wrote the book, because I also do a workshop on podcast casting called Get Booked and Get Paid, right? So this guy did my workshop, and it's 2 days. And then after that workshop, I have some additional programs I offer people. So he signed up for that. He never said anything. He never spoke, but he came to all my lessons. He took a lot of notes. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, this guy has paid me a lot of money to be my client, but I don't know what results he's gotten. So I reached out to him. I go, man, I hope this guy's getting results, right? So I said, can we have a talk? He goes, sure. And then I said to him, hey, Michael, his name's Michael. I said, Michael, um, tell me a little bit about you, and how things have been going. So you got to get, this guy's a tax accountant. You met some tax accountants, Zarina, right? These are not people with a lot of charisma usually, right? Most of them are.
Not necessarily. I've actually interviewed a few on my show, and they have
There's some
something
that
to
are
share
great.
for sure.
There's some that are great and have lots of energy, but I'm like, listen, like I said, I know a lot of tax accountants. Out of every 100, maybe 5 of them have great energy, great charisma. The rest of them are, they're introverts. They're like numbers focused. This guy is a great guy. He's a very good speaker. He's just quiet. You know what I mean? He's not like big energy and whatnot. But he said to me, yeah, Nicky, it's been great. I go, really? Tell me more. He said, well, I did everything you taught me how to do. I went on my first show, and the host and I really hit it off. And at the end of the show, the host said, I really like what you're talking about here, and I think my clients need your help. Would you mind if I gave you some referrals? Zarina, would you mind if I gave you some referrals? Would it be okay if I gave you, Zarina, some referrals? Right?
I must say that this happens quite often in my experience. There's always somebody they know or I know. There's a lot of exchange when it comes to interviewing
100%.
other people, professionals. Yeah.
He got 14 referrals from this lady. He made thousands and thousands of dollars from his very first tax. And he is not a guy with big charisma and big energy. He's an introvert. So if you're an introvert, no problem. This will still work for you. Then someone else said, okay, but Nicky, you're articulate. You're a professional speaker. English is probably your first language. It actually is not. It's my second language. But they go, my English isn't so good. I'm not very articulate. It's not going to work for me. I go, oh, I got a story for you. So I have a client. His name is Mathieu. He's from Belgium. Mathieu. English is not his first language. Serena, it's not even his second language or third language. It's his fourth language. His first language is Dutch. His second language is French. His third language is German. His fourth language is English. He only goes on English language podcasts. Only. Okay. In his first.
Well, if I must add my point of view on Belgium, I've lived in Belgium briefly, and and you can count all of these as first languages. Actually, the first 3, because they study them basically from the first grade, and since it's a triple speaking country of these 3 languages, it's basically inborn in these people to speak all 3 languages.
100% that's true. 100% that's true. That's exactly correct. But keep in mind, this guy went on shows in English. His English is not fantastic. It's not bad, but it's not fantastic. You know what I mean? He has a thick accent. Didn't matter. First show he went on, he made a 4,000 euro sale as a result of being on that show. In 84 days, he made 124,000 euros in sales because of what we taught him. English wasn't his first language. And then other people go, okay, Nicky, all right, I got it. But look, I'm not a business person. I'm like a coach. I don't know a lot about business or sales or marketing. I'm just one of these honest people. And I go, perfect. That's all you need to be. There is one person who did our program, and she is a 68-year-old grandmother, no business background. She just decided she wanted to help people, and she created a coaching program for young women. That's all she did. Her name's Sharon, really sweet lady, like your grandma. You know what I mean? So Sharon came onto our course, and one of the first people to buy the book, by the way, which I was really grateful for, was Sharon. And I went to her. I said, so Sharon, how's it going? She said, oh, Nicky, it's amazing. I go on these shows. I have these great conversations. And I've had like 4 or 5 clients from shows. She says, that's so great. They've all, these women, these young women, they love me. I love them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the best, right? And you got to think, and her coaching program was $5,000 US. So she made $20,000. This is a woman with no sales background. In fact, sales makes her go like this. Oh my God, I don't want to sell. But going on a podcast was an opportunity for her to show her love, share her caring, and did it in the way I taught her. So she didn't just come and vomit and spew out whatever. She did it in a very particular way. And that's what allowed her to build relationships with people and create business. So this is what I say to folks who come to me and go, what should I do? Well, you got to tell your own story. You got to have 3 or 4 stories. Like I've had 3 or 4 stories I've shared with you that are real stories. So don't make stories up. Okay. Don't go on ChatGPT and say, make up a nice story for me. Don't do that. All right. Create a real story. It's got to be real. And then authentically share your heart and share your love. Because if you do that, here's what's going to happen. The audience is going to listen and go, oh, wow, I'm like Sharon. Oh, wow, I'm like Matthew. Oh, wow, I'm like Michael, right? They're going to think in their mind, I'm like one
Identify
of
with them, yeah.
Yeah, and that's important because you want to tell more than one story, because if you're telling, one story, some people will identify with it, some people won't. So that's a good thing. But also the host will probably identify with one of the stories. One of the stories is going to touch them in their heart and go, that's me. And if that's the case, that opens the door for a relationship. That's when, Zarina, after the show is done, you and me, we spend 5 minutes, we chat, and I go to you, hey, Zarina, what's going on with you these days? What's happening? And you're going to go to me, hey, everything's great. Or maybe you're going to go, everything's great, but Nicky, I really like the story you told me about blah, 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 blah. Let's talk more about podcast guesting. Can we have a call? Boom. That's opportunity, right? Or you might go, you know what? I think my clients will like this. Can we make a deal? Because this friend of mine, Michael, this client of mine, he got referrals from this lady. Then they built a business relationship. So it was profitable for everybody. It's a beautiful thing.
Is there an industry or a type of business where this doesn't work?
Well, I think it would be more difficult in something like network marketing. You know what I mean? Direct sales. Although I should even put a caveat on that. If you're going onto a show to say, I want to get people to come and be part of my network marketing business, I think it's difficult because you got to spend a half an hour talking to somebody, and then at the end of it, see if they're interested in a new opportunity. So I'm not sure that works so good. But if you're in the coaching space, if you're in the legal field, if you're in the accounting field, any service-based field that you're in, this will work for you. If you're a person who has a desire to be helpful to people and you're in a service-based business, I think podcast guesting is a really, really great way for you to completely open up a whole new way to meet amazing new people. Every week, I meet 3 great new hosts every week.
Do you think this model would exhaust soon, or do you think it's a viable model for the coming years?
I think it's going to be viable in 2025, 2026. By 2027, I think everyone's going to figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what else can I ask you about this? To me, it's all clear, but I do want to bring more juice to the listeners. So what else?
So ask me,
tell me about
what do you need to do?
Tell me about hosting, though.
Yeah.
You told me about guesting. What about hosting?
Let's get to hosting in a second.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things people need to know about guesting. So one question you should ask me is, well, what are some mistakes people make when they go on a show as a guest that makes it impossible for them to get a lead or sell? Because, that's people do that. In fact, almost everybody does it wrong, right? That's why I created this the way that I did.
Okay.
So mistake number 1 is verbal diarrhea. You know what I mean? If you go on a show and someone asks you a question and you speak for 11 minutes straight without letting the host to get any additional questions, bad idea, right? Terrible idea. You're going to lose the connection that you have built with them. Mistake number 2 that people make is their message stinks. Like they don't have a good message. So if you come on a show and you don't have a good message, that's a problem. So you need to know, first of all, well, what do I do and who do I help? So you've got to be really clear on that. And then the third thing you got to be clear on is what's the main pain they have? What's the itch they have to scratch all the time, right? So I come on these shows because for a lot of people in business who are, consultants, coaches, uh, entrepreneurs of service type, they're very interested in new ways to generate leads without a lot of ad spend. That's important because ad spend is not working so good right now, right? So that's a pain, that's a problem. So what I'm doing in talking about podcast guesting is I'm saying I have a way for you to get leads, sales, and clients with no ad spend. So they're going to go, is this even real? And I'm like, absolutely, it's real. So for them, they're interested in listening to this. They're interested in learning. Someone listened to this. Zorina, you yourself have listened to this. You're a host. You've probably been a guest on shows. You're thinking to yourself, maybe he's right. Maybe I could try this as a guest. I could go be a guest on some shows. I could attract some people into my world. You go, okay, he's got a book. How much is the cost of the book? It's what, $5 as a Kindle, $20 as a paperback? Okay, I'll buy his book. Let me read it. Let me see what the book says. Let me give it a try. You know what I mean? That's what my objective, if I come on a show, if all the hosts that I'm with say, I want the book, beautiful. If people in their audience say, I'm going to buy the book, beautiful. And then if a couple of the people who are hosts say, you know what, Nicky, I think we can collaborate, or I think maybe I need more than a book, let's talk. That is what it's all about. So you're in the business right now of having your experts be available to help the businesses that you deal with. So you're doing this as a host. You could easily also do this as a guest. You could choose which shows to go on, what expertise those hosts have. You can take those people and have them become part of your ecosystem, part of your client base with you as a guest. That's a fantastic thing.
I think the issue with a platform business like what I'm doing at the moment is more balancing on the client side, and the people who I collaborate with, they're willing to come on the platform and collaborate. There's more than enough service providers, so to say.
So you don't have a problem called I don't have leads. You know what I'm saying? But most people do. Most people in this industry have a problem called I don't have enough leads. And that's why a message like mine is very powerful for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So what is the name of the book again?
The book is called Get Booked and Get Paid, How to Generate 6 Figures Plus a Year Through Podcast Guesting.
Okay, let's move on to the host advantage then. What's the advantage to be a host and to have your own show? Can you achieve the same with your own show as what you're doing with podcasting?
Sure can. You sure can. Yeah. But listen, I'm a host. You're a host. These are some realities of being a host. Okay. You have to put out a show on a schedule. So I don't know about you, but I do 2 shows, 3 episodes a week. That's a big commitment, right? So maybe you do once a week. That's a huge commitment that you have to make. So people that are thinking of starting a show that don't have a show need to understand that. You have to commit to a schedule. It also costs money. Let's be honest. You pay for production, you pay for equipment, all that is part of it, right? And it takes time. I don't know what your costs are on a monthly basis. For me, I spend about $2,000 a month on my shows. $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year on my shows. So if you're going to want to start a show, be prepared to spend time, energy, money. I've also had situations where I got so busy that I didn't have time to get a guest and I forgot. And I got up in the middle of the night, going, the show's supposed to drop in the morning. I don't have anything. So I get up in the middle of the night, tired, and I go, who do I have who's across the world? And I reach out to them and I go, yo, I need a guest right now. Can you do it? I try to find 2-3 people and I've done it in the middle of the night. I've done an episode and it's ready. My guy gets it and he goes, okay, he does the production and it's out that day. I'm telling you, it's not always easy as a host to keep up with everything you need to do as a host. Being a host is amazing. Out of being a host, my brand credibility has gone up to the sky because I've interviewed some of the top thought leaders in the world. I interviewed Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. I interviewed Marie Forleo, Oprah Winfrey's business coach. I interviewed Dr. John Maxwell. He's the #1 leadership author in history. He's written books that have sold 60 million copies. I interviewed Robert Cialdini, who wrote the book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, that sold 7 million copies. Like, I've interviewed top level people. It's been amazing for my brand. It's helped me make a lot of money. So podcasting's awesome. I love podcasting. I'm speaking to people who don't have their own podcast, who are like, hey guys, how do I still get involved in podcasting? You can be a guest. You don't need to commit to a schedule. You don't need to spend any money except, being on a pod match, something like that. All you got to do is show up on a show. You got to follow the process I teach you. You got to have some good stories to tell. And you got to be honest, and you got to be ready to have a good message. If your message isn't good, we got to help you get your message straight. That's what I teach people to do. All these things are, in my book and in my courses about how to get all that right. But if you get that right, you're going to be a guest that's somebody people love, somebody people are excited to have on their show, and somebody who's able to build the types of relationships that result in win-win opportunities for everybody.
Yeah. Is there anyone that you've had as a client so far that's been unsuccessful, and that's for whatever reason, and what was the reason? Using this strategy for podcast guesting.
In this strategy, there have been folks who've done the program who've gotten higher level of results versus lower level of results. Okay. So here's the truth. You have to have all these things that I tell you. So everybody I talk to, everybody who comes and does work with us, we work with them until they get a result. Okay. Mm-hmm. It may take some people longer, it may take some people not as long. So some of the stories I told you were people who got results pretty quickly, but I've had people take them 3 months, 6 months before they got anything. And really the main reason is their message wasn't very good, right? They were good people, but people didn't understand why they should talk to them, why they should work with them.
Yeah. Do you help them with the message? Do you help them forming the message?
We absolutely do. That's one of the key programs that we are delivering to the marketplace, is all about how to create an amazing message to position you as a thought leader in your space. When I first came on your show 2 years ago, that was the main topic that I talked about, is thought leadership and messaging. So we absolutely do that. But it's not something that we do in the context of the 2-day podcast guesting workshop. Like, we spend like 20, 30 minutes on it. Messaging sometimes can take quite a bit of time to get right. Yeah. I've had someone I worked with for a year before we got their message right. And I mean like a year solid, trying it out, going out into the marketplace, failing, trying again and again. Some people, it's easier to get their message right than others. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, if your message is, I can help you make more money, and the people that are your target market, that's their problem, that they need to make more money, that's a message we can dial in pretty quickly. But for example, if you're someone who's an expert in med spas and you help set up med spas together, that might take a little longer. By the way, I'm using that as an example because that was one of our clients who we did this with. It took us 4 months to help her get her message right. But as soon as we got her message right, boom, she made $1,050,000 in 32 days.
And where did her success come from? From the listeners of the podcast, or from the relationship with the podcast guests, hosts?
So neither. To tell you the truth. She went on the shows, and that's when we figured out her message was bad, when she went on the shows, right?
Okay.
And so we said to her, look, stop going on shows right now. Come back. You need to sign up for our Thought Leader program to get your message right. And so she said, okay, I'll sign up for your Thought Leader program. It took us 4 months to get her message right. And the way that we did it, like, you got to understand, for the type of work that she does, there's not a lot of podcasts that talk about med spas, as an example. There are a few, and she has been on them, but there's not a ton. So the first thing that we did after we figured out that was the issue is we helped her put together a group of high-level investors, people who set up med spas. Med spas basically are the organizations that help folks with Botox injections, with high-level skincare, things like that, right? It's a very specialized field. But there's a group of investors who see the money that can be made in this particular field, and they're very interested in investing money in it, right? In existing ones, in setting up new ones. And what she was able to do was put together a presentation in a city. She had 12 people in the room, and four of them were really good prospects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So the path was profitable in the end, although
Yeah, like you got to
initial
understand.
presentation venue was not the right place.
Yeah, but what was valuable about her doing the podcast guesting was that it showed the deficiency in her approach.
Understood.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even though the guesting itself didn't make her money, without the guesting, it wouldn't have become clear. So the guesting made it clear, and then we were able to give the proper solution to her problem, right? So sometimes you can't, like if you're a carpenter, everything looks like a nail to you. You know what I mean? So we say we're not carpenters. We're like a general contractor. So everything doesn't look like a nail to us. Sometimes it's a nail, sometimes it's a saw, sometimes it's a screw. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You got to look at what it is, and then you got to bring the right tool to the solution. And I say this to everybody: podcast guesting is not the answer. It's not like, oh my God, this is it. You can stop everything else. It's an answer. It's an answer.
One of the ways to do it, yeah.
If you only do podcast guesting, okay, I would not recommend that. I would recommend podcast guesting. You get on stages. You should have a speaker reel. You should get on stages to speak, either to get paid to speak or to have an opportunity to get clients from the audience, right? You should also do a warm market strategy. Warm market strategies are super, super important. Most people say, I don't want to call my warm market. That's because they're afraid. Your warm market is a source of at least $300,000 in revenue for you this year. There's people you know who need your help, but you don't know that because you haven't asked. You haven't tried to figure it out. Trust me when I tell you, Zarina, for you right now, given what you do, there's probably $1 million in your warm market that you don't even know about. And you think about that. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I don't believe in an approach. I believe in multiple approaches. Think about this as channels of distribution. Okay. If you're a big business, you have multiple channels of distribution. You might have retail, you might have online, you might have selling through partners. Same when you're a coach or a consultant or other expert. You need multiple channels of distribution: podcasting, podcast guesting, warm market, stages, you name it.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. I was just going to ask you something that you already answered for me. So,
Wonderful.
Nicky, how can people work with you? What are the options other than clearly getting your book?
So I would say this, okay, guys, leaders are readers. Do you agree with me, Zarina? Leaders are readers.
I
right?
do, yeah.
Very important. If you're not reading, if you're one of these people who proudly says, well, I don't read, I don't have time for that, that is not a strength. That's nothing to brag about. Start reading. Pick up some books. The beauty of this book is it's under 100 pages, okay? You can read this book in 3 hours. 3 hours. Think about it. Half an hour a day for a week, the book's complete. It's written in a very readable, easy to understand style. So I really recommend that if you are interested in growing, interested in becoming a better leader in your life, pick up this book, read it, and take full advantage of it, okay? But if you want to have a conversation with a live human being to say, how do I apply these to my life or business? Or maybe you're like thinking to yourself, okay, I'm not even necessarily sure I need podcast guesting, but my messaging maybe isn't so good. I've been around a long time. I need to talk to somebody. Jump on my calendar. I'll do a free coaching call with you. Okay. Normally, an hour of my time is $3,000. I'll give it to you for free. Absolutely for free. Go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Happy to have a conversation with you.
Could you send me this link and I'll put it in the description so that people can find it easily?
I'm going to put it for you right now in the chat, which will make it super, super easy for both of us.
And while you're doing that, your website is Let me just find it quickly. Is it your name, your website, or is it a
No,
different?
it's East Circle Academy. East Circle Academy.
eCircleacademy.com. Yeah,
That's it.
fantastic.
Beautiful.
Nicky, thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
Look, I believe that everyone needs somebody to love them and believe in them. I believe that strongly. My father taught me that when I was a kid. There's days where we all have a bad day, where our belief in ourselves goes a little wobbly. And today, I want to say this to you if you're listening to me here. You're a child of God. You were put here on this earth for a reason, a purpose, a mighty purpose. And it's your duty and responsibility to keep moving forward toward that purpose. And on the days that you forget who you really are, on the days where your belief in that uniqueness that God created in you falters, all you need is someone to believe in you. Listen to this podcast, or even if you don't want to talk business, okay? If you're just having a hard day, because I've had hard days, and I had people be there for me, reminding me that I'm someone who matters. I'm happy to be there for you. And I say this to that person listening right now who's having the hard day, whose belief in herself or himself maybe isn't so strong. Go to this and just say, I'm having a hard day. I need to talk to somebody. And I'm happy to talk to you there too.
Thank you, Nicky. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Grow and Learn. We hope that you found our podcast informative, engaging, and inspiring. Our mission is to help you keep growing and learning, and we hope that our conversations and insights have provided you with practical advice and useful perspectives. If you're looking for personalized support and guidance to help you achieve your personal or professional growth objectives, I offer a range of services to help. As a trusted management partner and mentor, I work with businesses in the process of transformation, looking for new streams of business, as well as M&A. With an extensive professional network of experts and mentors, I can bring on board the right person or team based on the specific needs of the company I'm working with. To learn more about the services I offer and how I can help you achieve your goals, please visit my website at grownlearn.org. You can also reach out to me via email or social media. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grow and Learn, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us, and it helps us to continue to create content that is relevant and valuable to our listeners. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights and perspectives with you in the future.